I wasn't born in shadow. No one is. I had a name once. Mother. Fingers too small to hold anything sharper than a wooden spoon. My world was a stone hut near the river, and the only thing I feared back then was the way winter crept into our bones. My father died when the rains came, not in war, not in glory. He slipped on the wet roof of the blacksmith's hall and cracked his head on a rock. The village mourned him for 3 days. By the 4th, we were already forgotten. My mother sold herbs, sometimes herself. Learned early that people lie louder when they're desperate. I watched as coins changed hands, promises passed between teeth. Kindness was weighed like grain, always measured, always short. When the famine came, she didn't cry. She just told me to leave. So you want to be a whisper, eh? Crawl through the world in darkness, letting other people tell stories about what you do? Think it's all style and no substance? Let me ask you something. How do you feel right now? No, really, how do you feel? Well, my guess is you probably feel pretty good. Just listening to that lovely voice whispering sweet nothings in your ear. Yeah, you might feel a little nervous, might even be scared. But most of all, I bet you feel good. Good because you're safe. Safe because you aren't the one fighting in the darkness. You're just watching, you're just listening. It's like voyeurism, except this time you're hearing confessions. Secrets buried deep inside people, the stuff they hide from their priests and their lovers. Ah, that's the best part. Whispers don't just collect coin, they collect souls. You take something precious from people and then slip away. Leave M holding nothing but echoes. Now, the first rule of confession is that the penitent believes he is the only one who's ever told you his secrets. And if you break that illusion, well, let's just say you won't be getting any more confessions. Oh, you want to be a whisper? You want to walk between the shadows? Listen carefully, because I'll only say this once. You hear me? I want you to listen with everything you've got. When I was 13, I worked for a man who called himself poet. He wasn't much of a poet, but he was good at slipping in and out of taverns late at night, stealing coins from sleeping merchants. Seemed harmless enough, but the trouble was he talked. Talked about the heist in the market square, talked about the fat purse he'd lifted from the baker's wife, talked until some kid heard him boasting in the latrines and repeated it all to the guard captain. Poet figured it would blow over. Said the kid wouldn't testify. But the captain was a vindictive bastard, and he dragged Poet into the courtyard, stripped him, and had him hanged. I got out of town that night. Took the boy with me. Heard him crying as we slipped past the city gate. Said he hadn't meant to, but he couldn't help himself. I could see that it was true. And I thought the boy deserved a chance to stop being forced to watch other people die. Now, we both needed work, so I set him up to eavesdrop in a local casino. He was a natural. What the guy lacked in subtlety, he made up for in enthusiasm and timing. Still, I told him, don't tell anyone. It's not the lady with the red hair, not the one-eyed bartender, certainly not the fat king. And I never, ever told him about the gardens. That was mistake 1. Mistake 2 was believing him. When I was 16, I took a contract to kill the king's advisor. This was a man who smiled at children, stroked cats, and gave generously to the poor. It was an odd request, but money is money. Besides, I suspected the advisor knew he was about to lose his head. That's why he hired me. I found him in his study, surrounded by papers and books and ledgers. When he heard me at the door, he just put down his quill and looked at me. It's done, he said. They've decided I must go. Seems the queen wants a new advisor. Says I've grown too attached to reality. He smiled faintly. Come in, have a seat. Would you like some tea? Now, I wasn't there to make conversation, but the man was so calm and so unafraid that it threw me off balance. I talked about the weather, the recent plague, and the price of onions. And all the while, the advisor listened, sipping his tea as if he were meeting an old friend. By the time I rose to leave, I felt almost sorry for him. And so I decided to wait a few days before delivering the news to the palace. After all, I thought, the king would be grateful for a delay. He'd need time to prepare for such an important execution. In hindsight, I was a fool. Of course the king had prepared. When I finally arrived at the palace, breathless and sweating, they received me with smiles. The king himself congratulated me on my discretion, thanked me for protecting his advisor's honor, and asked if I'd be interested in doing the job properly. Right then and there, I realized I'd made a grave error in judgment. But it didn't matter because I didn't have any choice. I could refuse, of course. I could turn tail and run, but they wouldn't just let me go. No, they'd hunt me down, so I agreed. That was mistake 3. Do you think it's easy living in the shadows? Do you think it's glamorous? You want to try? Go ahead, become a whisper. But first, make sure you don't mind never sleeping again, because once the darkness wraps around you, it's going to squeeze tight. If you're lucky, you might get to forget the sun ever existed. If you're not, well, you'll live forever. And every night you'll hear the echo of confessions. Let's talk about the ending of this story. Obviously, the main character is changing. Now he's working with Leora instead of against her, fighting for her cause, whatever that may be. They're drinking tea together. At the end, you see them sitting there together, these two ghosts refusing to vanish. But you also get this hint that their problems are far from over, because of course Liara says he won't come back, but he'll send another. And then there's this ominous feeling that their problems are just beginning. Well, I think this is actually a really interesting place to leave the story. One of the reasons why I chose this book is because I thought the ending was intriguing. You always want to pay attention to an ending, right? What does the ending tell you about the story? Sometimes you can learn so much from the ending of a piece of writing that you and learn anywhere else. Here the ending suggests that the story is going to continue. They're still in danger, they're still in trouble. They're still being hunted, but they're going to keep fighting. And I think that's a nice note to leave the audience on. It's not necessarily optimistic, but it's definitely hopeful. And what do you think? I'm curious. You think that was a satisfying ending? Or do you wish it ended differently? I personally enjoyed the ambiguity. I liked seeing them sit there and think, okay, this is where we are right now. This is where we've ended up. Now what? Because you see, stories are rarely ever truly over. Even if a story has an ending, you still carry that story with you. You carry the characters, you carry the plot, you carry the themes forever. And even if the protagonist solves their problem, their life is changed forever by that problem. Okay? And that's why I like ambiguous endings. Because they allow the audience to participate in the story more. They force the audience to ask themselves, how does it go on? What happens after this moment? How does it affect the characters moving forward? So I'm curious, how would you finish that scene? If you were writing the sequel, how would you start the next chapter? Leave your answers below. Also, let me know if you have any thoughts on the ending of this story. Do you agree with it? Do you disagree with it? And make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. I will see you next time. A god. That's what Alexander needs. God to light his path, sharpen his gaze, untie the knots in his gut. Only Olympus can do that. It's in her blood. Same as him. She understands why he craves war. War is not about skill or glory. It's about necessity. You were born without choice, she tells him. Your life will be decided by others, unless you make it yours. She shows him how. How to command, how to kill, how to survive, how to rule. And the boy learns fast. She lets him spear fish, toss javelins, sling arrows, names every bird and beast, teaches him which herbs are poison and which will heal, and how to listen. Not every sound needs a name, she says. Some do, some shouldn't. Alexander knows what she means. Sometimes his thoughts, his plans, his dreams, they take shape in the forest, under the stars. He doesn't share them with anyone, not even Parmenion, the one who stays closest. But Olympus knows. She watches him throw pebbles into the lake, imagining them as Persian lords. She sees him cradle a bird, caught in its nest. She knows the wildness in his eyes. It scares her, but it excites her more. She knows what he's capable of. Show me yours, she tells him one day, her hand out. It's like a blade, like an offering. Show me what's inside. The boy hesitates, looks at the trees, at the mountains, at his mother, his face a mirror of the sky. He takes a deep breath and opens his palm. It's empty. I don't see anything, she says softly. Then show me yours, he insists, his eyes flashing. Show me your scar, mother. She closes her eyes for a moment, remembering the day she lost everything. The men of Macedon called her a witch, whispered that she killed her first husband, the king of Epirus. The mountain folk, her kin, they welcomed her and her unborn son. How do I know it's yours? She asks him now. If he survives, because he'll have my fire in his eyes, she replies. Damn yours in his gut. She takes his hand and places it against her chest. There's a thin line there, hidden under her robe, a mark left by a healer's knife. "That's mine," she says. "What's yours?" Hello, everyone. Welcome to this channel. I am your host. Today we are going to do something different. We're going to try out a new format inspired by our community's love for interactive fiction. In this format, you will get choices throughout the story, but your choices won't just change what happens next. They'll affect the story's ending. Let's jump right into Chapter 1, Echoes Beneath Stone. I didn't mean to stay past closing. I told the guide I'd only take a few photos. Told the guard I'd be out before sunset. I even told myself. Just 20 minutes more. But Gnosis doesn't like clocks. It doesn't care for schedules. It doesn't let go once you start listening. I came to Crete alone. A research trip. A break from the city. Or maybe an escape. The difference felt thin. Everyone said Gnosis was tourist fluff. Reconstructed ruins, painted myths, history edited in concrete and conjecture. They were right, and still I stayed. The palace stretches like memory, wide, layered, non-linear. No one path, no center. Just loops, corridors, stairwells that vanish. And shadows. So many shadows. I wandered deeper than I meant to. Past the labeled sites. Past the signs in Greek and English. Past the places with lights, till all that was left were walls. Red, broken, breathing heat, and silence. That's when I heard it. Not a roar. A hoof step. Soft, repetitive. Like something heavy pacing on stone. I told myself it was wind, that history makes strange echoes. But then the smell came. Dust, lime, old blood. I should have turned back. Instead, I followed it. They say the Minotaur was just a myth. The king Minos built a maze to hold a monster. Half man, half bull, born of divine punishment and shame. That every year, Athens sent 7 boys and 7 girls to die inside it, until one hero, Theseus, walked in with a string and walked out alone. They say that's all it ever was. It's a story. But they never stood where I stood, in that chamber without a roof, where the fresco of the bull still dances midair, where the walls breathe like lungs, where the sun doesn't reach, and where someone or something still walks. So now you have a choice to make. Do you run away while you still can, or do you keep following the sound? Please write your choice in the comments section. If you chose to run away, please type run. If you chose to keep following the sound, please type follow. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next part of the story. I'll see you soon. I stared at the blueprint spread across my table. Tor Verus, it looked perfect. Every line matched my calculations. When the messengers returned, I saw doubt on their faces. The messenger scratched his beard. Tor Verus didn't fall, he said. It won't fall, I stated. General Marius frowned. How can you be so sure? We've bombarded them for weeks. Because the walls weren't built on sand or mud. What? The general laughed. You think they're built on bedrock? What does that mean? I traced a finger across the page. They're built on secrets. I was right. The walls didn't break. By the time we breached them, not with battering ram or siege tower, but with a simple crowbar, the defenders had vanished. Houses were empty. Markets were full of rotting food. The library had been burned. But one building stood intact, the Archive of Whispers. It was a small structure near the palace. No one entered it, not even the soldiers. Curiosity got me. The door creaked open to reveal a spiral staircase leading into darkness. No torches, no magic, just an endless black pit. The steps were worn smooth, like cobblestones. Neath my boots, I heard a whisper, "Don't go down." I did, not because I could hear better in the dark, because stairs are just stairs. A general has better things to do than listen to ghosts. At the bottom, I found a man. He was kneeling beside a fountain. Water flowed over his hands and formed into words. I leaned closer. Tor Verus was never meant to be conquered. It was meant to be hidden. He didn't look up. "Who are you?" "It's the last architect." "Then why are you here?" He shrugged. I liked the view. He gestured toward the walls, which suddenly seemed too high to scale, too thick to breach, too well guarded to sneak around. I didn't care. I kept looking, and then I saw it. A tiny crack running from the top of the wall to the bottom. It was barely noticeable, but I recognized it. It wasn't new. It had been there the whole time, and it was done perfectly. I turned to the old man. How did they hide it? Oh, that. He waved a dismissive hand. Some stones are too heavy to move. Some walls are too high to scale. Some dangers are best left undisturbed. I knew he wasn't talking about the wall anymore. He was talking about the city. I didn't stay long enough to find out what lurked inside those walls. If I hadn't escaped with my life, I wouldn't have remembered.
Ow.
But memories are funny like that. They claw at you when you least expect it. And sometimes the past refuses to stay buried.
Ow.
It pulls you down into the earth, dusts you off, and asks, "Are you listening now?" This story comes from a world where gods walk among mortals, where monsters lurk in the shadows and magic crackles on the fingertips of those who can feel its pull. In this world, heroes aren't born, they're made, tempered in the fires of adventure and forged in the anvils of destiny. Welcome back, everyone. I'm here to introduce you to the World Weaver Anthology series. Today we bring you stories from the first volume, stories carefully woven together to form a tapestry of epic fantasy. Each tale stands alone, yet together they paint a vivid picture of a world teeming with mythical creatures, daring quests, and larger-than-life characters. Our first story drops us into the heart of a fantasy world, where a young farmer discovers a dragoness egg. And you thought your landlord was bad? Now watch as his life changes forever when he decides to keep it. This is more than just a story of friendship between boy and dragon. It's a journey into courage and compassion, challenging preconceived notions and exposing the power of understanding. So sit back, relax, and let the story unfold before your very eyes. Don't forget to show your support so you don't miss out on the adventures that await. Torvarez was not tall, not wide, not crowned with towers or statues or pride. It was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that feels like an answer you weren't meant to ask. Our scouts said the walls were limestone, 87 palms thick at base. No outer moat. No natural cliff. No relief forces expected. It should have taken 4 days. 5 at most. We brought everything. Trebuchets, rams, fire oil, engineers, and, of course, us. The architects. On the first night, I walked the perimeter alone, measuring, marking, listening, not for sound, for vibration. You learn to hear walls in your bones. Where they tremble, they're weak. Where they ring, they're hollow. Where they breathe, they're lying. Torvarez didn't breathe. It hummed, low, steady, like stone that remembered pain. We built the siege engines anyway, standard spread. 2 mid-range trebuchets, a tower with 4 compartments. 1 battering ram named Thorn Fire Pit for boiling pitch, 24 laborers by dawn. All was ready. On the walls still hadn't moved. Not even a watchman peeking. Just a city watching without eyes. The first rock hit the north wall at midday. It didn't crack. It didn't shatter. It didn't even echo. Just stopped, as if the wall absorbed it. By day 3, we'd hit it 142 times. Launched fire, sapped the southern post, collapsed part of the outer trench. Still, nothing. Not a breach, not a crumble, not a single stone rolled loose. One of the younger engineers said, "Maybe it's enchanted." We laughed, until we realized we were whispering. On the 5th night, a tremor came. It's not from the earth, from the wall. It pulsed. It's like a heartbeat. 1, 2, 3, then still. The next morning, Thorn, our ram, had split down the middle. Not burned, not struck, just split, as if something inside it had shaken it apart. By day 7, the men stopped singing. By day 8, the generals stopped asking for timelines. By day 9, I stopped DA, never picked up another compass, never laid hand to timber or rope again. Not because I couldn't, because I knew too much. Because I understood what walls truly are. They are not barriers, not defenses, not even pride. They are promises. To keep something in, to keep something out. To hold the past in place long enough for memory to forget how it bled. I became a teacher in my last years. It's not in a grand hall. It's not in a city. Just a shack near the edge of a ruined aqueduct, where vines crept through stone and the wind still carried war in its breath. Young men came, hungry for glory, for invention, for destruction that felt clever. I taught them math, taught them tension, taught them leverage and wind. More than that, I taught them silence. One asked me once, "Master, what is the strongest siege weapon ever built?" I wanted to say the trebuchet, the catapult, the tunnel under Syracuse. Instead, I said, memory. He blinked. But that's not a weapon. I looked at the cracked stones around us. Isn't it? Because no wall we ever breached truly died, no tower we burned ever stopped smoldering. They lived on. In the nightmares of survivors, in the curses of poets, in the silence of maps that no longer draw their shape. We didn't build to win. We built to be remembered. Even if that meant being hated, feared, forgotten by name, but never by shape. I think about Torreveras sometimes. I wonder if it still hums. The wind still bends around its absence. If children walk through those fields without knowing the blood that once soaked them, I hope they do. Some ruins deserve peace. Some memories are kinder when left buried. And me, I will not be written in books. No statue will bear my weight. No bard will sing of the man who split towers and mapped thunder into the sky. But maybe, just maybe, one of my students will remember the way I said, "Walls fall, but what they hold does not." Maybe he'll build something gentler, maybe not. But the weight will remain in every crack, every echo, every breath held before a battering ram begins to swing. I was an architect of siege, of silence, of things meant to be broken. But even the best of us leave behind the one thing we cannot destroy, the shape of what we ruined.